combination. Who broke my heart? You did. Fall to the target, blame Cupid. You think you're smart.
This is NSR.
The Nerd Show with Joshua Watson, Saturday, 10 a.m.
Only on NSR.
I didn't at all make that in about 5 minutes. Oh, for God's sake. Am I getting a lot of feedback? It sounds like I can hear the air from underneath. Anyway, I should probably start the show properly now. Hello, lovely people, and welcome to the show. It is again a Saturday morning, and I am back in the chair for the Nerd Show, as you heard, with my jingle. Again, playing it is going to be difficult. I need to set that up. I came in a bit late, and the last show was still leaving. We'd had a few problems with the playing the music on the PC, so I was trying to sort that out. And I haven't really prepped for the show. Well, I have prepped for the show, but I haven't done the pre-prep, in this room beforehand, which isn't great because I'm now slightly caught off guard on what I need to load up, what videos, what music, and the like. But we are going. That was Poison Arrow ABC. A tune on last Saturday. I heard that in the co-op, in the student union co-op of all things, and thought, I've got to put that on the show. I hadn't heard it in probably years, and it's a song of almost my childhood. I can remember it so much from then. Anyway, yes, Nerd Show is back, and this is time for just a quick recap of my week, because we might as well do that. It seems to have become a feature of the show. This week has been pretty good. All things considered, it's not been a bad week at all. One exam, but it was open book, like computer programming and the like. Shout out to my computer science guys, finding that a lot harder than we are with MATLAB. I don't know if you guys, I imagine you guys are using Python. Probably not the superior MATLAB, which is so much easier. Anyway, I'll stop rattling on about things that most people have no understanding about and go on. Today's show is going to be, well, the technical title is A Very English Nerd, and the point of the show, or geek, it could be a very English geek, either works, is to talk about English and British nerdom, because recently, and from everything I said in the last 2 shows ago, the history of nerdom, check it out. From everything I've said, I've made it out that nerdom is a very Americanized thing that we've kind of brought over here, but this is far from the case. It began here, and it's less of a obscurity here. I think everybody is nerdier in the UK in the same way everyone is more socialist in the UK, if that makes any sense. there isn't this kind of big divide. I think everyone's nerdier here than they are in the States. Like, nerds are a specific thing, where I think there's a kind of baseline level of nerdom here in the UK. Anyway, we're going to keep rolling some music before we get into the main features of the show. This is Cars by Gary Newman. And that was Gary Newman and Cars. Again, like I said, a bit of feedback, so I'm having to turn the speaker down. I don't know why. I guess the mic's pretty close to the front. Anyway, as I was saying before, the absolute tune that Cars was, it's time for this week's featured section, which, like I said, is British Nerdom. Oh, the mic stands a bit loose. There we go, that's probably a bit better. That might be why I'm getting all that feedback. So we'll start with where Nerdom kind of began, which is books, obviously, and the fantasy world. And you can't talk about Nerdom at all nowadays, or especially British Nerdom, without mentioning the obvious... Well, first of all, actually, no, let's go for it. Without mentioning the obvious, Lord of the Rings, an absolute cornerstone of Nerdom. A lot of, Dungeons & Dragons is massively based off it. It didn't start based off it, but it started based off war games, similar to what Warhammer is now. But Dungeons & Dragons with all the races and stuff, all based off Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is an absolute cornerstone and essential part of Nerdom. I think everyone can agree on that, and it's the largest contribution I think anyone Tolkien ever made, Tolkien and anyone makes to nerdom in that one book. Also, in the kind of fantasy world, there's stuff at the similar area like Narnia. We're good on the magic front here. I think that's our big thing. Less superheroes. But while doing research, I came to the conclusion that British people, at least, we don't make superheroes. We started to consume them, but we don't make them. Ours are slightly more interesting. We do the magic a lot, and obviously the more recent big book, and films as a result, but is the Potter franchise, Harry Potter, which is, again, massive fantasy and an important part of geekdom. There's a lot of Potter fans. I think there's a name, a bit like, other subcultures of geekdom, they've all got this name. I can't remember. Is it Potterers? That sounds ridiculous. It's not Potterers. I don't know. It's not something I got into. I have never seen or read a Harry Potter, which I know is probably blasphemy to a handful of people listening out there, if anyone is indeed listening out there. And then after that, we're still in the fantasy. Fantasy has been a big thing in UK. And of course, we then get to a kind of era where we started making jokes about our own fantasy, and that obviously being Discworld. Dave Pratchett's Discworld being an amazing set of books. This is my, I would say, area of expertise. It's really my dad's. This is how I got into it. It's kind of an older person's fantasy because it makes the jokes about the fantasy while also making the jokes about real politics. And they are an amazing set of books. If you've not read Dave Pratchett's Discworld, or even just seen some of the films, because some of the films are really good. Some of them are a bit hit and miss, as you can imagine. Then some of them never seem that high budget. They all seem ridiculously low on the amount of effort and money put into them. But I feel that's kind of the point. It's almost funny. Anyway, on the subject of books, there is of course one other great set of books, where it comes to questioning and making jokes about fantasy and sci-fi in this case. And that would be The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Which, trust me, will be getting its own show in its own right, because I could witter on about that book for years. But let's just say it is indeed a wholly remarkable book.
What's best happy in his world. Nigel is a nice spoken, but he likes to speak and he loves to be spoken to. Nigel is happy in his world. Nigel is happy in his work. We're only making plans for Nigel. We only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel. Nigel just needs this helping hand. And if young Nigel says he's happy, he must be happy, he must be happy, he must be happy in his world. We're only making plans for Nigel. We only want what's best for him. We're only making plans for Nigel. Nigel just needs this helping hand. We're only making plans for Nigel. He has this future in a British steel.
This is Student Radio. This is NSR.
XTC there, making very bad plans for Nigel if they want to put his futures in British steel. That's for steel? Steel! There we go. British steel. That's better. Yes, that's XTC, making plans for Nigel. And yeah, as last week we had The Lebanon from Human League, a song that hasn't aged at all. And then we've got Making Plans for Nigel with huge aging in it. Nobody should be putting their futures in British steel at the moment, but that's a whole another issue. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, which is, of course, English Nerdum. If you've just joined in, that is what we are talking about in the first half of the show. And if you were in the first half, you'll have heard me talk about books. But you're probably saying, books are dead media, Josh. No one reads anymore. In that case, I present you with the argument of television and, yes, and film. I guess we can put them both together because they are both the visual media in some respect. And, of course, early on in, when were they made? The 50s? Must have been. Yeah, there was great works, and this also goes into comics, which is Jerry Anderson's work on Thunderbirds and Stingray and lots of the puppets, the scary puppets, and they are scary, but they are awesome, and they're such a great collection of films and TV shows, and I think they're an important part of nerdom. And bring me on to what my second point is. English nerdom is fantasy, but instead of doing superheroes as our kind of modern thing, we do the future a lot. We do, looking forward to either utopian or dystopian futures and building something out of that, and like future tech. And the Thunderbirds is a great example of that because it's massive tech. These beautiful rockets. I mean, they are amazing, amazing machines. I've got a book at home. I was a huge Thunderbirds fan when I was younger, when they were kind of showing them on repeats, and now I still have a load of the videos, and I can talk for a long time on that. Maybe that will also get its own show. I mean, this show seems to just be a springboard on finding things that could get their own show sometime this term or next term or even the term after that, depending on how long they let me on the air for, well, hopefully long enough. Anyway, I had a book which had like fake kind of layouts of the, like how they were built, how the Thunderbirds were put together, and that was so much fun to look through. And I think the only reason I didn't go into engineering, like that was close to bringing me into engineering. There was a few other things that led me to physics in the end, but that was definitely on the line. I was okay, but you're saying, Josh, those TV shows were older. And then a bit later on, we had, like, again, we're talking the parody age, and I think there was an age in the British nerdom where we went into parodies, you know, Red Dwarf being the example there, which is a kind of just a jokey comedy about sci-fi, you know, similar manner to Hitchhikers, but again, maybe another show for Red Dwarf, unlikely. It's also the kind of beginning of the mainstreaming of nerdom. I mean, you could argue any of these are all putting them in a public space, which is true for anything that's nerdy. But I'd say that was kind of thing that kind of got popular outside of the nerds. But maybe not. And last of all, for TV, still long going, is obviously Doctor Who. But, of course, that will almost definitely get its own episode. I think the idea of giving that, like, a 5-minute slot here would completely ruin the timetable. So, yeah, we'll throw Doctor Who in another episode, but don't forget it. It is still going and it is still nerdy, whatever people think about where it is now compared to where it was when it got rebooted and where it was beforehand. I think it's the writing default. But we'll get into that another episode, and that will be a rant and a half, that one. I'll have to get some people on for that. Winks in the general direction of hopefully they're listening, because there's one person who has been saying she's going to listen for a while, and hopefully she has. I haven't got a message from her saying she is yet, so she may not be. She probably has it, she is. Anyway, we're going to roll with a completely unrelated song to Doctor Who, Teenage Rebel by Chameleon Circuit.
I've had so many different faces, so many different personalities. My tastes change, I get cravings. There's some things you can't take away from me. You can't stop me dreaming. I used to be old, but now I feel young. Cause I was a boy when I learned how to run. I could never be settled in one time or place. I won't ever stop, cause I know what's right. Get in my way, I will burst into light. I'll keep dying and living and changing my ways. But I was a teenage rebel and that stayed the same. It might feel like you're defeated, but I know that we all long to be set free. So overcome your monsters, rise up, there is just one thing you need. Something to believe in. I used to be old, but now I feel young. Cause I was a boy when I learned how to run. I could never be settled in one time or place. I won't ever stop, cause I know what's right. Get in my way, I will burst into light. I'll keep dying and living, changing my ways. But I was a teenage rebel and that stayed the same. I used to be old, but now I feel young. Cause I was a boy when I learned how to run. I could never be settled in one time or place. I won't ever stop, cause I know what's right. Get in my way, I will burst into light. I'll keep dying and living, changing my ways. But I was a teenage rebel and that stayed the same.
This is the home of student radio in Newcastle.
This is NSI.
And that was Teenage Rebel that was Chameleon Circuit and Teenage Rebel, completely unrelated to the Doctor in all ways. Just accept it, okay? Just accept it. Anyway, so you're now saying to me, okay, well, fine, we've got some influence on TV, and I guess Doctor Who's still going, even though the writing may be running it into the ground, and who knows how long it will keep going for. But no one even watches TV anymore, man. Come on, we need something more recent. So I present to you my final piece of evidence that the UK, I guess this has become an argument that the UK is a source of nerdom, more than it's become a kind of explanation, which is video games. And I know I have a huge gamer audience out there because I guess it's probably the circle of nerdom and geekdom I'm mostly in. I don't know, it's the ones who listen anyway. Anyway, so there is a huge... We'll start with the indie scene, because indie scenes are a great way of seeing how good a culture is. If people don't know, indie developers are people who are not connected to a major label. They're traditionally, a guy in their room developing a game. There are a lot more than that now. So an example, as a major UK indie developer who has developed... Well, the developers have developed a great game, is Facepunch Studio with Gary's Mod. Gary's Mod, I know a lot of my PC friends play ooh, that was close. A load of... all the time. It's a game that I've never got into, and I honestly do not know a huge amount about, but looks very interesting. Also on UK developers, which are technically indie, this gets a bit bigger again. We've got Eurocom. They did the Batman Beginnings, which, from everything I've heard, again, it's not a game I've played. Absolutely amazing game. And they also did the GoldenEye remake. You know, the one for the Wii, and I think you got on the Wii's the one I had it on, because, you know, I was a Nintendo boy. But it was also on, I think, everything. Xbox, PS3 at the time, and then it'd been Xbox 360 given the dates. And I imagine they ported it to PC, because everything can put it to PC. Hold up, we're talking about GoldenEye. Well, then, if we're talking about GoldenEye, there is one game studio that has to be mentioned if we're talking about UK developers, and that is, of course, Rare. You know, okay, I know their reputation recently has gone down the pan, and they did the huge stint with Microsoft just making Kinect games. At least Sea of Thieves is a return to a decent game. At least they're making a proper game, and it's not awful. You know, it's not panned by the critics. It was just kind of given a meh. However, they are icons of an older era of, the N64 generation and the SNES and NES. Obviously, the SNES generation, they were doing Battletoad. Battletoad's an amazing platformer fighters. They're just so much fun. They're obviously just the Ninja Turtles, kind of. But they're just like, it's so much dumb fun. And then, of course, the N64, as I said, they did GoldenEye, they did Banjo-Kazooie. They worked on great sets of stuff on that era. And, of course, they got their hands on one icon who is still a face of gaming to this very day. Now, I'm taking a huge risk here because I'm playing something off YouTube and I haven't pushed an ad in front, so if an ad plays, I apologise. But welcome to today's gaming, one required and one allowed gaming song of the week. Here we go. And it's not working because YouTube's not working. Indeed, yes, that's what I learned from the guys on the studio floor this morning. Okay, we're going to have to try and come up with something else for the day's song, but we'll just roll. What do I have planned next? That is annoying. Okay, plan next. Oh, okay, so the plan next was going to Geek of the Week, but I'd rather not. I'd rather get a gaming song under my back. Anyway, so of course I was going to play the Donkey Kong rap, because it's hilariously funny and I've always wanted to play it on air. However, I don't think there's a version on Spotify I can get my hands on that's the original. Well, okay, we're just going to roll on to something else. We will just throw a song on, and then I'll run into Geek of the Week. That's annoying. I'll try and make it up to you and see if I can get it to work. This is Mercury by Block Party.
This is not the time to start
This is Student Radio. This is NSR.
Okay, so I'll make up for the inability to pull up anything decent by just throwing down some GoldenEye N64 damn music in the background. Hopefully you can still hear me over it. I'm going to turn it down quite low. I can still very loudly hear the music in the headset, so let's just hope it works. Okay, so I'm going to walk over what happened. So basically, the YouTube videos aren't playing on this PC. That's what the last guys were having trouble with, because they use YouTube Music, I use Spotify, and luckily I knew this was on here, so I could pull it out quickly. It's very loud, even though I've got it quite low on the dials. Okay, I'm just making note of that because I'll need to sort that out. I should probably put it on the bed system instead of talking over it. It's actually really hard to talk over this music because it's so... You'd think I did that on purpose, didn't you? Anyway, we're going to keep rolling on to this Week in Geek after... Well, no, just now, I guess. We might as well. Let's do that.
You're listening to the Nerd Show. It's time for This Week in Geek.
Yes, Hold up, I'm going to play that again because I put too much effort into that for you guys not to hear it.
You're listening to the Nerd Show, and it's time for This Week in Geek.
Yes, it is indeed time for This Week in Geek. That was the closest thing to a newsy, soundy intro I could put together. And yes, that is just the GameCube's loading sound, slightly lower in pitch. I thought it'd be quite funny. I should have probably not said that and seen how many people have worked it out, but it is indeed. Anyway, we are going to go on to This Week in Geek, which has been a very quiet week for geeks and nerds. Not a huge number of film releases, no sign of anything major. Games-wise, I think Outworld's Whoa, is that a huge load of feedback? I think it was. I swear I can hear so many people outside. Anyway, Outworlds came out last week, but I think all the kind of fallout's coming from this week. And I didn't talk about it last week, so I might as well give it a quick mention. Yes, everyone's favourite Better Than Fallout game has come out indeed. Space Fallout, as some people are quoting it. And it's... if you've played the Fallout series, it's a lot better. It's like the Vegas, as I was talking about, I think last week I mentioned, or like 2 weeks ago I mentioned Fallout at some point. Fallout 76 and that debacle. Basically, instead of that, just get this and play it, because this is gold single-player stuff without needing any of it. From everything I've read. Again, the only other thing that's happened this week is massively scribbled on in my notes, and I can barely read it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is more sciencey, which I need to talk about more on this show, because it is called the Nerd Show, not just geeks. I mean, this is This Week in Geek, so technically I shouldn't be, but whatever. Anyway, so the major science event in this week is that quantum computing has now reached such a point... it's now somewhat understandable that early models of the universe are starting to come through. This is at... Hold on. Just check my notes. Oh, I didn't write it down. As you can see, I've wrote this down this morning in the rush to get in. Literally just glancing through articles, trying to fill this slot desperately. Because, I mean, I could just play music and talk rubbish. And I probably will. But that's, I believe... I'd love to say NASA, because everyone just says NASA at that point, but it's definitely not. But yeah, quantum computing advancements, and this is my area of interest, so I was really interested in the article, but I have obviously completely forgotten it between now and then, probably with the technical hitch-up and stuff. I will get that for you next week, okay? That's the deal. I will work on that, and I will next week's show, I'm going to throw it down now, because I need to fill some time. Next week's show, I'm going to throw out the kind of geekiness, and focus on the nerdiness. So next week's show is going to be on subjects that geeks and nerds do here at the uni. So I'm going to be digging around at the Nerd Socks, asking people what they do, asking people why they think that subject's nerdy or not. So if you're listening in and you're on the Nerd Shock, so one of the Nerd Socks, do you prepare for that? I think they're actually called the Geek Society, but I like the word nerd. I feel nerds are more encompassing because nerds include the people who are like, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'll be asking around and seeing what people think, if they think their subjects are nerdy enough. Obviously, physics, hello, massive nerd sock, massive nerdy and geeky subject, and then computer science, chemistry, biology, the sciences in general. But what about the art side? I'm pretty sure there's quite a few artists who would, not artists, but historians and the like, who would call themselves nerds and geeks. And, you don't have to do one of those kind of subjects to be a geek. Far, far from it. Anyway, on the subject of the Geek Sock, we had a meeting last Sunday. I hope you were there. It was a great time. We had a pub quiz. I'm pretty sure I've never seen less alcohol drank at a social in my life. That's not fair. We had a good time. It was good fun. But one of the questions was, I think it was, which artists taught us that boys don't cry? And of course, the answer is...
This is the home of student radio in Newcastle.
This is NSI.
And that was The Cure, Boys Don't Cry. I've already done that connection. I shouldn't use it again. I've overused that one already. I need to make my own. I do have a couple, as you've heard, but I should have spent more time making them. I also haven't sorted out properly, so I'm trying to play them off a drive, like an internet drive, and then play them over the air, which is why they keep repeating and not sounding great. I need to just put them onto a different machine, plug that in, replace it with the one that we've got here with the auto jingles, and work it from there. Anyway, that's a personal note to myself that I thought I'd just give to you all. I did some quick research while you were away listening to The Cure, Boys Don't Cry, as I've said, on the thing I was talking about, the quantum. Not NASA at all. Obviously, it's never NASA. It's the G word. It's Google. And a lot of people are saying it's not as big as they think it is. Basically, Google is saying, oh, look, we've been successfully able to model part of the universe using this very early quantum computer. But of course, the modelling they've done is pretty much equivalent to anything you could do on a standard computer at the moment. So it's not a huge. I mean, I say a standard computer, not like your regular, the desktop PC you're listening this off or your smartphone. Definitely not your smartphone. We are still talking supercomputers, and I mean modern supercomputers, not supercomputers for the 80s, which of course were about as powerful as your smartphone. Again, that could be an episode. I should do that. I should do a whole episode on computing. I could definitely find a few nerds, some of you who are listening, who could definitely help me out with that show. Anyway, yes, again, like I said, I am out of things to say, but luckily it's only 11:15, so I've only got a little more time to fill, and I could fill it with some amazing songs I've got here. This song, okay, the music video for this is why I thought I'd put this in. Hot Chip, Bus Full of Ecstasy. This is from the most recent album. You've probably been hearing it if you've been listening to the, not Bar Full of Ecstasy, the other one, the one that's big. I can't remember the one they released as a single. That's really bad of me. I know the internet's right there, but I'd rather not fill it in right now. I'll check it for after the show. You've been hearing that on the loop. I know I've been hearing it on the loop background. The reason I want to pick this one out is if you see the music video, they do the entire thing like it's an old, NES, SNES, even like early Famicom 64, Commodore 64. What's the Famicom 64? I've mixed up two things there. That's impressive, Super Famicom and Commodore 64, and similar early consoles. And I think it's really clever. I think the music kind of fits it. It fits it when you're seeing the thing. It could be a title, but it's not like 8-bitty. But anyway, let's play it. This is A Bar Full of Ecstasy by Hot Chip.
I've got the cure, the pure remedy. I know I can make you see the colors that I see. Come take a bath in our ecstasy. I'll wash away all of your fears you'll see. Put the beauty of your heartbreak in the music you and I make. Although trouble don't evaporate, I'm never far from you and your heavenly state. Put the music of your heartache in the balance we negotiate. Let my body be like acetate for you to leave your mark as your beauty dictates. I've got the cure, the pure remedy. I know I can make you see the colors that I see. Come take a bath in our ecstasy. I'll wash away all of your fears you'll see. If you're looking for a cure, I'll swear so pure. If you're looking for a cure, I'll swear so pure. Lovers rock and they roll, and their movements are out of control. When your head's on their block, are you losing more than you sold? Lovers rock and they roll, and their movements are out of control. When your head's on the block, are you losing more than your soul? I've got the cure, the pure remedy. I know I can make you see the colors that I see. Come take a bath in our ecstasy. I'll wash away all of your fears
Hot Chip and Bar Full of Ecstasy just coming in there. What a way to end a song. The new album Hot Chip, I personally think they've done better, and I think it's a bit of a summer fab of an album, and I'm hoping we get another one relatively soon with a kind of beefier set. But that, definitely the best song on an album, unless I've forgotten something. It's been a long time since I've sat down and listened to a whole album. As a result of this show, I find myself just kind of searching through stuff, trying to find songs that I think would work for the show. Funny stuff, weird stuff, anything stuff. I just have a list of kind of backup songs, which I have, sadly. Well, I've got enough songs to cover this, to be honest. I'm kind of just backing up into it. Okay, so what have I got this week? What have I got that's nerdy? What have I got that planned? Honestly, not a huge amount this week. Oh, what am I talking about? We've got a test at the end of the week. Far from nothing. We've got a midterm. What is this? A presidential campaign? Mid-semester. No. I guess mid-semester, whatever you call it. Just bashing the radio there. Exam at the end of this week on Friday. So I've got a lot to look forward to. Got a calculus. I mean, there's first years, there's any second years and third years out there listening in, they'll be laughing at me, thinking I've only got one test this week, and laughing, obviously. And of course, I've got assignment hand in, my weekly assignment from Waves. That's all got to go in as always. Yeah. Well, the grind's the grind, but this show makes it interesting. Next week, I plan to, like I said, have more jingles and have more stuff. What else should we play for you today, lovely people? Honestly, I'm a bit lost at 10-2. You know, we're kind of there. We're kind of almost at the end of the show. I just kind of need one more thing. Oh, you know what? Screw it. Let's get it on. I was thinking I'm going to do a whole show on gaming music, but I know I've already kind of done one today. I don't think this song needs any introduction. And if you don't know it, because you're my parents, then hopefully enjoy it. Megalovania from the Undertale soundtrack, Toby Fox's geniusness that is the game Untitled. Yes, you can tell I'm playing my ace right there. Oh, that's such a good boss fight, and it's such a good song. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've never heard it or played the game, it's not a huge giveaway. You will be, all I'm going to say is you'll do well if you ever hear that music in game. I haven't, and I have put quite a lot of hours into a game that can be considering the game can probably be beaten If you run it and take the easiest route, 5? Like, easily. I mean, speedrunners could probably pull in under an hour. But if you just go for it, kind of casually, you could probably sit down and do it in one session. A long session, I guess 5 hours is for some people. I mean, it's a long session for me, especially now. Over the summer, I did it a couple times. I ran it once, just straight through 2 routes. I won't spoil it too much if you've never played the game. I 100% recommend it. And yeah, Megalovania is kind of the title track. It's not the title track, obviously, but it's kind of the big one. And if you've ever heard, if you're a gamer or even just a geek, you have 100% heard that.
This is the home of student radio in Newcastle.
This is NSI.
So, with it being 5 to 10, I've only got time for one more song. I'm sorry to leave you again for another week. I wish I could stay for another hour, but the other guys will be coming in shortly. Let's hope. Anyway, we will throw... What should we end? What's a great song to end with? The last couple of weeks I've been trying to connect the ending and the beginning, but let's be honest, it's not been that great. Like, I've been working too hard on it, and I think if it's going to happen, it should flow naturally. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, we're going to finish with Do You Want To by Franz Ferdinand. This is another song that is a bit of my childhood.
Oh, when I woke up tonight, I said I gotta make somebody love me. I'm gonna make somebody love me. And now I know that it's you. You're lucky, you're so lucky.
This